7 straight wins in Lincoln for the Hawkeyes as Iowa rolls into Memorial Stadium and storms out with a 40-16 beatdown of Nebraska. Dominant, decisive, and oh yeah, Iowa still runs this rivalry.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. We are your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast, and thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day here on the Locked On Network, now number one for sports podcasts. We will break things down, take a look back at this dominating performance by the Hawkeyes. Plus, we're going to talk a little basketball later on as Iowa picks up their championship. A look back at the win against Grand Canyon. We'll break it all down, talk about the stars of the game, all coming up. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio in the state of Iowa. You can hear me currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network each weekday from noon to 2, talking the world of sports and a lot of Hawkeyes with you, with stations in Des Moines, Iowa City, the Quad Cities, Cedar Rapids, and Sioux City. Hear me each day from noon to 2. Well, let's get into it here. 40-16 the final. Iowa runs away from Nebraska in the second half of the game where a lot went right. A lot went Iowa's way, and Iowa just was able to make the plays up and down the field. And after the initial surge on the 70-yard run by Emmett Johnson, they jump out 7-0. Iowa really did kind of whatever they wanted in this football game as Iowa finishes the regular season up at 8-4. A likely trip to Tampa now on the horizon for them. And the old Outback Bowl, now the ReliaQuest Bowl, is where Iowa's likely destination will be. Still figuring out what's going to happen, obviously, on Saturday. And with conference championship games coming up next week, we'll get into that a whole lot more. A performance defensively that looked rough. And it wasn't just that one run by Emmett Johnson. Iowa continually early in the football game was getting sucked in a little bit too far. You saw both the linebackers and the safety play at times not playing assignment sound football that you're used to. And yet after that, another second half where they dialed it up, a game plan that certainly worked out to Iowa's advantage. Some throws that were inexplicable, why Nebraska wasn't just lining up and running the football much like Oregon did against the Hawkeyes here a few weeks back. I'll have no idea, but good for us. And yet, as Iowa jumped out and down in the game 7-0, they march right down the field. They get the field goal. Right after that, take the lead 10-7, and Nebraska couldn't slow them down. You know, this is an Iowa offense, obviously that has had issues this year, but they were able to get chunk plays, had some bigger plays than we're used to, and some of the guys that we're going to talk about in our stars of the game, from Mark Gronowski doing his thing, DJ Vonnahme, who continues to emerge at the tight end position and have to be incredibly excited about what his future is going to be. Saw some new faces also defensively, and that goes hand in hand with the second half when Phil Parker changed some things up and they looked like a different team than they did for the first, certainly quarter and a half of this football game as they were able to dial it in. Special teams were really good at times. Again, the question, why do you continue to kick to Caden Weegan? Yes, please keep doing it. However, why teams continue to do it, and yet you have the muff kickoff that sets them up, and it's 10-10 at the time, and you're wondering, oh, how's this going to turn out for Iowa? 10-10, felt like you'd regain control kind of this football game. The defense tightens. You give up, a first down on, I think, the second play after that. They go to the second quarter, and then they slow them down, hold them to a field goal. And then from really there, the onslaught was on. And their special team coaches hopping around it. And good for Nebraska this year. I mean, they shook hands. So they give him credit for that. Way to go. Matt Rule, we'll see if he knows the All-Americans of this one. And then, of course, at the end, and you see emotional Kirk. And I know a lot of people, they want to read into that, right? They want to read into Kirk being emotional on the sidelines and saying, is this the end? And I've heard it, and I've seen it in your comments on YouTube. I see it on social media. I just see it talking to some of my Hawkeye friends. What's going on? I don't think anything. I really cannot believe that this is because he knows that the end is here. It's just getting older. I joke with my radio co-host, Ken Miller. He says, I cry at commercials all the time. And just when you get older, you get more emotional. And Kirk's talked about in the past with his father, when he was around, and at his older age got more emotional. You think of Dick Vermeil, another great coach, and what he did late in his career, and he was so emotional, and that's what we're getting from Kirk. I don't think it's something that you can read into because he's emotional before this. This is not the first time or the first season that we've seen emotion. Offensively, the first couple of drives worked great. It was a lot of handoffs to Kamari Moulton, who again grinded and just short of 100 yards again on the ground. Let's get him there for the bowl game, please. That guy, he's had so many hard-earned runs. Finally broke one, had an over, a 33-yard run, I think it was, in the game. And finally at least busted out one of those big chunk plays that we've been waiting for Kamari Moulton throughout the course of this season. But want to see him get that pass. Outside of that, though, the offense was clicking. It was humming. Gronowski as a thrower was looking about as good as he has throughout the course of this whole season. And, of course, you know what you're going to be able to do. Mention Vonnahme going out there. How about Reese Vanderzee making another big play? And certainly gives you excitement about what he's going to be going forward. I think when we kind of talk about the individual players, it's one thing I want to talk about. Excuse me. Yes, still dealing with this cold. But one thing I do want to talk about is looking forward and looking towards next season. Yeah, there's still a bowl game, but we're going to be doing a ton of that. And that's going to be a big part of the conversation, certainly going forward. So we'll continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes. Let's talk about some of those stars. Breakout, and what a win against Nebraska means. Now, the 7th consecutive victory against the Cornhuskers over in Lincoln. We're moving into historic territory. This is something you got to go back decades and decades that Oklahoma did the last time we saw some team have this kind of domination against Nebraska. I know it's not Nebraska football of the 70s. It's not Nebraska of the 80s and 90s. And that's likely never coming back. Still, to do this year in and year out, that's a pretty big feather in the cap of Iowa football. We'll talk about that as we come back. Stars of the game as Iowa cruises past Nebraska 40-16. Stay right there as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. Well, the holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family or friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. This week's the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. I love Omaha Steaks. I've sent them in the past to my dad, sent them to other family members. It is a perfect gift and something you know they're absolutely going to love. And the variety that they have, steaks, burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts, all that can fit under the roof and under the tree of anybody on your shopping list. Say big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com with the promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. Trent Condon with you as we have a rapid reaction podcast for you. Iowa, a 40-16 win against the Huskers. 7 consecutive in Lincoln, 10 of the last 11. Just a dominating performance again in this one. And again, apologies. Still working through the cold. Made our way back from Western Iowa and battled the weather conditions here today as we come back to you after Iowa gets the win. All right, stars of the game. And some of the names we definitely have to bring up. Mentioned DJ Vonnahme, the big play and just a well-designed play. I mean, that route concept with him slipping back behind the defender, running the inside slant or post route as he snuck back behind there, making that play. You know, Gronowski in the past, how many times it felt like that pass would have been completed, but not with an ability for the runner to catch it and move up the field. Boy, he's going to be so good. And still work to do as a blocker. And we've talked about that in the past, but you get excited about his upside. Thomas Meyer, who's dressed and played a little bit here towards the back half of the year. They got a lot, certainly to be excited about at that tight end position. And also on top of it, they'll get a return next year. They'll get Addison Estrenga back next year, and definitely that tight end position that took a step back this year looks like it has a chance to really ascend forward, definitely going forward at that spot. offensive line, seeing those guys come out and the ovation that they got from the Hawkeye fans in Lincoln, that was great to see. Always fun when he can celebrate like that in whoever's stadium, and doing it against a rival feels a little bit better. Gronowski's second touchdown, they're hooting and hollering. You can hear on the TV cameras just that visceral scream that you let out. And I mentioned to my wife, now I never played high level athletics. I mean, I played in the North Iowa Conference for God's sakes, but they're just something special when you go on the road and you do something like that. How cool that feels, and you can definitely feel that coming out there for a program that Iowa likes to beat. And you could tell there's a little something extra there. Speaking of that, and why this matters, and we talked about this earlier in the week. Kirk Ferentz, it does feel like Nebraska, there is always a little extra motivation. Kirk loves rivalry games. He brings them up a ton. He talks about the importance, and he's been incredibly good overall in rivalry games. You look at what they did this year against Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, just absolutely dominating in those 3 games. The Iowa State game, that's another one we know. But that aside, and it does feel like, how about this though? Phil Parker, as a lot of the coaches do after the game, picture with their position group, picture with them with the Heroes Trophy. This is just the 4th time that he has tweeted in the last 5 years. All of them. That's right. After they beat Nebraska. So it feels like Phil has got a little something extra for this one too. Other guys got to talk about. And this is where I want to go, speaking of that defense, with some of these young guys. This young group of defensive backs that we just saw very little of until the end of the season. You start with the Rashad Godfrey. So Godfrey, Florida kid, comes in from Tampa. Our guy Brian with the Lockdown Recruiting site, he talked a little bit about him. Felt like he was a really good fit for Iowa and the way that they play and the scheme that they had. And when you look at Rashad Godfrey, his name has come up going back to July. Out in Vegas, remember that was a guy that Kirk brought up. Talked to some of the defensive guys that were out there. Herkett, I think, brought up his name. I think Cohen Entringer did as well. He's just one of those young guys that is running the race. And when you see a performance like this, when TJ Hall's not going to go, and then early in the football game, you lose Cohen Entringer, and he steps up and he looks the part. And he had the tackle on the 4th down play. I think the guy was short. They gave him the 1st down. Great play. Out in space. Big dude out there. He delivers the blow. Then he forces a fumble as Iowa's up 24. Nebraska's eating some clock at the 1-yard line. Makes the hit. Boom. Iowa gets the ball on the turnover there. That dude looked good. Another guy in the defensive backfield I thought looked really good and you get excited about is Jacob Wallace. Jacob Wallace, DC guy. He's been out there playing special teams. And these are the kind of stories that always emerge. Brian Allen, he forces a fumble. And he's going to be a guy next season that's going to have to be a starter likely for this team. And it needs to take one final big step. Every day, as you know it, this is a Brian Allen podcast. I love Brian Allen, and I think there's a ton of upside there. Well, it's going to be in a full-time role next season for him. These are the stories that make Iowa football, though, what they are. It's not just about the stars. It's about the guys that put in the work and become stars very quickly. Are you going to be surprised next year if Rashad Godfrey or Jacob Wallace, even Jalen Watson, if those guys are going to be household names by the end of the season? You shouldn't. One more star of the game defensively we got to bring up was Aaron Graves. Now, Aaron Graves just has 2 tackles in the game. He's doing it as a new dad, though. That's right. His son was born, got a jet, apparently, that picked him up and brought him over to Nebraska, told his wife, and told the guys he wasn't coming over here to lose. And so, first day as a dad, how about this? How about that performance out of Aaron Graves? Great to see. He got emotional. I saw the locker room and just some still pictures from that and the emotions that were there. It's not just Kirk. A lot of guys are emotional in that locker room. It's a feel-good victory. There's a ton of them. And Iowa does it once again. And this stat, it just jumps out. The number is Iowa finishes the year 8-4. I know for some of you, you see it as a disappointment. And there's disappointment inside of it, but look big picture. Iowa's won at least 8 games every season since 2015. taking away the shortened COVID year of 2020. By the way, that team went 6-2 that year and definitely would have been an 8-win team, but that aside. 10 straight seasons of winning 8 or more games. Other programs that have done that, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. I get it. I was not winning national championships. I was not competing for national championships. Iowa in this new system is not going to be competing for many Big Ten championships. But the consistency of winning is something that needs to be commended. Do we want more as fans? Absolutely. Do we want to have that playoff appearance? No doubt. Do we want to be able to win a game, do some damage come playoff time? It'd be great. But the consistency of winning, year in and year out, at a program like Iowa, it's something that should not be scoffed at. All right, so that great stat that came from Ben Stevens. Got another one. This from Scott Nelson. Congrats on Kirk for passing Matt Rule, Scott Frost, and Mike Riley for second most Big Ten conference wins in Memorial Stadium history. That's right. Bo Pelini, during his pretty successful run as a Nebraska head coach, he had 12 conference wins inside of their home stadium. Kirk Ferentz now has 7. 6 for Rule, 6 for Frost, 6 for Riley. Mickey Joseph with 1. So there you go. That's just absolutely incredible. We got more to talk about here. Locked On Hawkeyes. We got a whole lot more breaking down this season. Iowa finishes 8-4 and does it in dominating fashion over Nebraska. We're going to come back, talk some hoops. Iowa picks up a championship win against Grand Canyon as Iowa undefeated on the season. Up next, a road trip to the Izzone and Michigan State. Talk some hoops when we come back. Locked On Hawkeyes. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. FanDuel's got you covered as well for football. When the Iowa Bowl destination comes out, you'll be able to wager on that one, likely in Tampa in the ReliaQuest Bowl against an SEC opponent, and that Iowa-Michigan State game in basketball on Tuesday. That'll be up as well on the FanDuel app. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Trent Condon back with you one final time here. Rapid reaction after Iowa cruises against Nebraska 40-16. Let's talk a little basketball as Iowa gets the championship win. Came to you after the win against Ole Miss with a rapid reaction on that one. Let's go back to Wednesday night. Iowa 59-46 over Grand Canyon. And after Grand Canyon scored 13 points in the first, 6 minutes of the game, Iowa clamped down defensively. And that is the defense I think a lot of us anticipated that we were going to see. Was not the same kind of offensive performance from Bennett Sturtz. Did not shoot the ball nearly as well as he did in the previous game against Ole Miss, but another nice performance out of Cooper Koch. We've talked about Cooper and what he is going to be for this team, the skill set that he has, the size, the athleticism, and of course the shooting ability that he has. Saw some good things out of Isaiah Howard. And after Howard was 1 of 12 from the three-point line going into that game, he knocks down a couple of big three-pointers in the second half. Remember, he was a starter. Then they moved Combs into the starting lineup. Howard went to the bench. He's such a plus defender. He's one of those elite-level wing defenders that you definitely need. And if he can knock down three-pointers, even at a clip at like 35%, you're really cooking with something there. Shot got hot. Of course, has the athleticism, had some big dunks out there in California, and really excited about Isaiah Howard and what he's going to mean for this one. And then it go real deep again. This was another game where we just didn't see a whole lot of the depth. Rotation definitely tightening up, and feels like Ben McCollum kind of finding his group, finding his guys. Now it's a road trip to Michigan State, and that one is not going to be easy by any means, but we'll break it down here on Locked On Hawkeyes. We are your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. I need to get some water and get set up. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and we'll get ready with you. We will be back with you on Sunday night into Monday as we will break things down, go into what we saw one more time, and a second look at the Iowa win against Nebraska, and get you set for Iowa-Michigan State next week. Hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. 5-star review if you're on the podcast side. All that helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. We'll talk to you again on Monday. Until then, go Hawks.